Admiral Helena Chen stood at the massive viewport of Earth's orbital command station, watching the stars with thoughtful eyes. For centuries, humanity had reached out to those distant lights, sending signals and exploration ships, hoping to connect with other intelligent life. The responses had been few and far between, brief scans from passing ships that quickly moved on, avoiding any direct contact. Humans were alone in the universe, not because no one else existed, but because no one wanted to talk to them. "Admiral, you should get some rest," said Commander Rodriguez, her second-in-command. "The defense drill starts in 6 hours." Chen nodded but didn't move from the window. "Do you ever wonder why they avoid us, Commander? All those advanced civilizations out there, and they treat Earth like it has some kind of disease." Rodriguez shrugged. "Maybe we scare them." Chen laughed softly. "Us? Scary? We've barely mastered faster than light travel. Some of those ships we've detected have technology we can't even understand." "Technology isn't everything," Rodriguez replied. "Maybe there's something else about us they fear." Before Chen could respond, an urgent alert sounded throughout the command center. Red lights flashed as officers rushed to their stations. "Report," Chen ordered, striding quickly to the central console. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew across the holographic display. "Unknown transmission, Admiral. Not matching any Earth protocol. It's alien." The command center went silent. This wasn't like the brief sensor pings they occasionally detected. This was a direct message. "Put it through," Chen ordered. The main screen flickered, and strange symbols appeared, shifting and changing. Complex mathematical patterns followed, then a series of images that made Chen's blood run cold. The pictures showed planets, beautiful, peaceful worlds with delicate architecture unlike anything on Earth. Then came images of destruction, those same worlds burning, strange black ships cutting through elegant defense vessels like they were made of paper. The final image was a star map, with a clear route marked from the alien worlds to Earth's solar system. "They're sending us coordinates," Park said, voice filled with awe. "And a message. The computer is translating now." 3 simple words appeared on the screen. "Help us, please." Chen stared at the message, understanding washing over her. "They're not just making contact," she said quietly. "They're asking for our help." Rodriguez looked confused. "But why us? If they have more advanced technology." "Because they're desperate," Chen interrupted. "Whatever is attacking them, their technology isn't enough to stop it. They need something else." Her eyes narrowed. "They need us." Within an hour, the United Defense Forces top officials gathered in the station's war room. Scientists, military leaders, and government representatives argued over the transmission. "It could be a trap," warned General Winters. "Lure us out, away from Earth's defenses. Or it could be exactly what it looks like. A desperate plea from a civilization facing extinction," countered Dr. Eliza Kaminsky, the UDF's leading xenobiologist. "The mathematics in the transmission match what we know of the consortium." "The consortium?" Chen asked. Dr. Kaminsky nodded, bringing up a holographic display of hundreds of star systems. "A coalition of species we've been observing for decades. They've been aware of Earth for centuries but classified us as a death world, a planet with environmental conditions too harsh for their standards. They avoid direct contact with species from such planets." "So we're too tough for them," Rodriguez said with a slight smile. "In a manner of speaking," Kaminsky replied. "Their homeworlds have mild climates, minimal predators, few natural disasters. Their evolution didn't require the same resilience that Earth demanded of us." Chen considered this. "And now something is attacking them that their peaceful ways can't handle." "Exactly," said Kaminsky. "The attacking ships in the transmission don't match any known consortium design. They're dealing with an unknown enemy, and they're losing badly." President Rivera, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. "Admiral Chen, if we respond to this call, what are we looking at?" Chen studied the star map carefully. "The coordinates are about 3 weeks' journey at maximum FTL. We'd need to send a significant force, unclear what we're facing, so we prepare for the worst." And if it is a trap? Rivera asked. Then we spring it and deal with the consequences, Chen replied without hesitation. But my instinct says it's not. They've been watching us for generations. If they wanted to attack, they could have done it when we were less advanced. Rivera nodded slowly. Admiral Chen, you have authorization to assemble a response fleet. Take whatever ships and personnel you need. Sir, General Winters protested, we'd be leaving Earth vulnerable. If something can destroy the consortium, General, and then make its way here, Rivera interrupted, Earth would be vulnerable regardless. Better to face it with potential allies than alone. The meeting concluded and preparations began immediately. Word spread quickly through the UDF. They were going to war, humanity's first interstellar conflict, to protect aliens who had never even bothered to introduce themselves. As Chen supervised the gathering fleet from her flagship, the UDF Dauntless, she received a visitor. Ambassador Lin, newly appointed as humanity's representative to the consortium, arrived with additional information. They call themselves the Galactic Consortium, Lin explained, showing Chen detailed files. Over 400 species from what they classify as Class 1 and 2 biospheres, essentially paradise worlds. Earth is a Class 5, what they call a death world. Because of our environment? Chen asked. Partly, Lin replied, but also because of us. Humans evolved as persistence predators on a planet with extreme temperature variations, powerful storms, earthquakes, and countless diseases. We're built to endure pain, adapt to hardship, and keep fighting long past when most species would surrender. They think we're monsters, Chen realized. Lin nodded. And now they need monsters to save them. 3 days later, the largest battle fleet in Earth's history prepared to depart. 50 ships, from massive carriers to agile destroyers, formed up around the Dauntless. Every vessel was crewed by volunteers, over 20,000 humans ready to fight for a civilization that had shunned them. Standing on the bridge, Admiral Chen addressed her fleet. Today we answer a call that humanity has waited centuries to receive. It's not the welcome we hoped for, but it is a recognition of what we've always known, that when faced with extinction, everyone's the same. Everyone's afraid. Everyone wants to live. She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew. The consortium may see us as dangerous beings from a dangerous world. Today we show them what Deathworlders do when someone asks for help. We bring chaos to whatever threatens them, and we remind the galaxy why Earth is not to be taken lightly. The fleet entered FTL in perfect formation, leaving the safety of Earth behind and heading toward the unknown. The Deathworlders were coming, and they were bringing chaos, but this time in defense of those who feared them. 23 days of faster-than-light travel had left the human fleet crew tense and ready for action. The UDF Dauntless led the formation as they prepared to exit FTL at the coordinates sent in the distress signal. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, her uniform crisp despite the long journey. "Status report," she ordered. "All systems green," replied Lieutenant Park from the operations console. "Weapons hot, shields at maximum. The fleet is in perfect formation." Commander Rodriguez stepped closer to Chen, speaking quietly. "What do you think we'll find?" Chen's expression remained neutral. "Best case? A misunderstanding. Worst case?" She paused. "The end of a civilization. Exiting FTL in 3, 2, 1, announced the navigation officer. The starfield outside the viewport stretched and then snapped back to normal as 50 human warships emerged into normal space. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge as everyone took in the scene. Before them, "My God," whispered Rodriguez. The space around them was a graveyard. Elegant alien vessels drifted in pieces, their beautiful designs now twisted wreckage. In the distance, a space station that must have once been magnificent now burned, half of its ring-shaped structure completely gone. And among the destruction moved the enemy. Massive obsidian ships shaped like arrowheads, their surfaces seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with terrible purpose, firing strange energy weapons that cut through the remaining alien defenders, like scissors through paper. "Life signs on the station?" Chen demanded. Faint but present, Park confirmed. Approximately 12,000 survivors. Chen didn't hesitate. Battle stations, all ships, combat formation Delta, protect that station at all costs. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, spreading out in a three-dimensional pattern, designed to surround and confuse multiple enemies. The black ships, 7 of them, paused in their attack as if noticing the newcomers for the first time. No communications from the enemy vessels, reported the communications officer. They're scanning us, though. Let them look, Chen said coldly. Then show them what humans do to bullies. The first shots came from the UDF Thunder, a heavy cruiser on the fleet's right flank. Its railguns launched projectiles at a fraction of light speed, slamming into the nearest black ship. The impact created spiderweb cracks in the enemy's hull. Damage, but not critical. The response was immediate. 2 black ships turned and fired those same cutting beams toward the human vessels. But unlike the elegant alien ships they'd been destroying, the human vessels didn't maintain perfect formations. They scattered, each captain making independent decisions while following the overall battle plan. They're not used to targets that fight dirty, Chen observed as the Dauntless rolled to avoid a beam that passed harmlessly through empty space. Exploit that. All ships, pattern chameleon. The human fleet's formation dissolved into apparent chaos. Ships accelerated and decelerated randomly, changed direction without warning, and fired from unexpected angles. It was fighting like Earth. Predators, unpredictable, opportunistic, and relentless. The black ships struggled to adapt. Their movements were precise and mathematical, clearly expecting their targets to follow logical patterns. When the humans refused to behave as expected, the enemy's effectiveness dropped dramatically. We've got their attention now, Rodriguez noted as 3 enemy vessels moved to engage the main human force. Good, Chen replied. Commander Zheng, status of Rescue Group Alpha? A different voice came through the comm. Approaching the station now, Admiral. Enemy ships were focused on your group. We're starting evacuation procedures. While the main fleet engaged the black ships, a smaller group of faster vessels had slipped around the battle to reach the damaged station. This was the human way. Distract, then strike where least expected. The battle intensified. 2 human destroyers took direct hits from energy beams, their shields failing catastrophically. One began an emergency retreat. The other, the UDF Harrier, showed no signs of withdrawal despite the damage. Harrier, report status, Chen ordered. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, came the strained voice of Lieutenant Commander Jackson. Engines at 60%, weapons functional. Chen frowned. Pull back and regroup with respect, Admiral, Jackson interrupted. We've got something to try first. Before Chen could respond, the Harrier's engines flared to maximum output. The damaged destroyer accelerated directly toward the nearest black ship, which continued firing. Jackson, what are you doing? Chen demanded. Making it count, Admiral. The Harrier's remaining weapons fired continuously, focusing on a single point on the enemy vessel where earlier hits had created structural weakness. As the distance closed, the black ship tried to maneuver away, seeming to realize the human's intention too late. The collision was spectacular. The Harrier rammed directly into the enemy's propulsion system, its remaining armaments detonating on impact. The black ship didn't just take damage, it split nearly in half, secondary explosions rippling along its length. Silence fell over the dauntless bridge. Harrier crew status? Chen finally asked, her voice tight. 37 escape pods detected, Park reported after a moment. Approximately 100 survivors from a crew of 215. Chen nodded once, jaw clenched. Get those pods to safety. All ships press the advantage. The human fleet surged forward with renewed determination. The black ships, facing an enemy unlike any they'd encountered before, began to falter. When 2 more of their vessels suffered critical damage, the remaining 4 suddenly accelerated and vanished into FTL jumps. Should we pursue? Rodriguez asked. Chen shook her head. Negative. Focus on rescue operations and securing this area. As the human ships moved to assist survivors and collect their own damaged vessels, a new signal came through, this one using Earth communication protocols. This is Ambassador Lin on the consortium command vessel Harmony. We've been observing from the edge of the system. Lin's voice conveyed both relief and shock. Admiral Chen, the Consortium First Minister requests to speak with you immediately. Chen straightened her uniform. Put them through. The main view screen activated, showing an alien unlike any human had seen before. The First Minister had delicate, crystalline features that caught the light, forearms folded in what seemed to be a formal posture, and large, multifaceted eyes that regarded Chen with clear astonishment. Admiral of Earth, the alien spoke, their voice melodious despite the translator's mechanical overlay. I am Zerilia, First Minister of the Galactic Consortium. We did not expect such swift and decisive action. We don't like to keep people waiting when they ask for help, Chen replied simply. Cerilia's crystalline features shifted in what might have been an expression of wonder. Your tactics were chaotic, unpredictable. Your warriors sacrificed themselves willingly. The alien seemed to struggle with the concept. One of your vessels intentionally collided with the harvester ship. That's what humans do, Chen said. We protect our own. But we are not your own, Zerilia pointed out. Chen's expression softened slightly. You asked for help. That made you our own. For a moment, the alien was silent, those faceted eyes studying Chen carefully. Perhaps, they finally said, we have misjudged the nature of Deathworlders. This was just a scouting party, Chen replied, changing the subject. Based on your transmission data, the main enemy fleet, these harvesters, are still coming. We've bought time, nothing more. Zerilia nodded, a gesture they'd clearly learned from observing humans. Then we must prepare. Will you help us further, Admiral of Earth? Chen looked around at her bridge crew, at the determination in their eyes, then back to the alien leader who had once feared them. That's why we came, she said. But if we're going to save your people, First Minister, you need to stop seeing us as monsters and start seeing us as your only hope. The Grand Meeting Hall of Harmonia, the Consortium's central world, had never hosted beings like the humans before. Admiral Chen led a small delegation through the vast circular chamber, aware of the countless alien eyes watching their every move. The hall's delicate architecture, with its floating crystal platforms and flowing water features, made the humans look even more out of place in their practical military uniforms. They're all staring at us, whispered Lieutenant Park. Of course they are, Ambassador Lin replied quietly. Many of them have never seen a Deathworlder before. To them, we're like watching tigers walk into a gathering of house cats. At the center of the hall, First Minister Zerilia waited with the High Council, 12 representatives from the Consortium's founding species. Chen noted how different they all were. Some had multiple limbs, others seemed to float rather than walk, and one appeared to be made entirely of a blue-green gas contained in a transparent suit. Admiral Chen of Earth, Zerilia announced, their crystalline voice echoing through the perfect acoustics of the hall. We welcome you and your delegation to Harmonia. Please, join us. Chen stepped forward, her movements deliberately slow and controlled. She had been briefed extensively by Ambassador Lin on consortium protocols and knew that many species present were easily startled by sudden motions. First Minister, counselors, people of the consortium. Chen began, her voice steady. Thank you for your welcome. Earth is honored to offer assistance in this time of crisis. A counselor with 4 wings that fluttered nervously, Ambassador Lin had identified them as Zephyr of the Avalar, spoke up. Your battle tactics at the Narian outpost were concerning. You destroyed the harvester vessels rather than attempting communication or capture. Chen met the alien's compound eyes without flinching. With respect, Counselor, the harvesters were slaughtering your people. They showed no interest in communication. How can you be certain? Asked another counselor, this one with features that reminded Chen of an Earth octopus. Dr. Eliza Kaminsky, who had accompanied the delegation as the fleet's chief xenobiologist, stepped forward. May I address the council, Admiral? Chen nodded, and Kaminsky activated her data tablet. Holographic images appeared above the device, showing detailed scans of Harvester ship fragments recovered after the battle. These are our initial findings from analyzing the Harvester technology, Kaminsky explained. Their ships are partially organic, grown around a core of crystalline material that bears striking similarities to the cellular structure of Narian physiology. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the hall. Cerelia's crystalline features seemed to pale slightly. "Are you suggesting," they began. "The Harvesters aren't conquering you," Kaminsky confirmed grimly. "They're converting you. The crystalline cores we found appear to be repurposed Narian biological material. They're using your people as components in their ships." The silence that followed was absolute. Chen watched as the council members exchanged glances that needed no translation. Pure horror. General Torres, the final member of the human delegation, cleared his throat. "This is why we need to act quickly. First Minister, we need to consolidate. Your people." "What do you mean by consolidate?" asked Cerelia. Torres activated his own tablet, displaying a galactic map with consortium worlds highlighted. "Evacuate your outer colonies. Bring your population to core worlds where defenses can be concentrated. Establish clear defensive perimeters and prepare your civilians." "Prepare them how?" Cerelia asked, though from their tone Chen suspected they already knew the answer. "Teach them to fight," Torres replied simply. The expected outrage erupted. Immediately, council members spoke over each other, many rising from their seats. Chen caught phrases like "unthinkable" and "against our entire philosophy" in the translator's audio feed. "Enough!" Chen's voice cut through the chaos, silencing the room. She hadn't shouted, but the command in her tone was unmistakable. "I understand. This goes against your nature. The consortium has evolved beyond violence, that's admirable. But the Harvesters don't care about your philosophy. They won't negotiate. They won't show mercy." She looked around the room, meeting as many alien gazes as she could. "We'll do everything possible to protect you, but there are 50 human ships against hundreds of Harvester vessels. We're outnumbered. We need every advantage, including having your people ready to defend themselves if the worst happens." The council chamber remained quiet as her words sank in. Finally, a new voice spoke, softer but firm. "The Admiral is right." All eyes turned to a consortium member Chen hadn't noticed before. They were small, with pale green skin and large eyes that reminded her of Earth's amphibians. "I am Thrix of the Palladian Engineering Guild," they introduced themselves. "I monitored the battle at the Narian outpost. The humans fought in ways we would never consider, but they saved 12,000 lives that would otherwise be lost." Thrix stepped forward. "If becoming a little more like them means surviving this threat, I believe that is a price worth paying." The debate continued for hours, but Chen could see the tide turning. Fear was a powerful motivator, even for species that had evolved beyond violence. By the meeting's end, the council had reluctantly approved Torres's evacuation plan and agreed to allow human military advisors to train willing consortium members in basic defense. Later, as Chen supervised the first training sessions in a repurposed Harmonian Park, Ambassador Lin found her watching from a balcony. "They're learning faster than expected," Lin observed, nodding toward a group of Palladians practicing with simple stun weapons under a human instructor's guidance. "Because they're terrified," Chen replied, "not just of the Harvesters, but of becoming like us." Lin considered this. "Perhaps becoming a little like us is better than not existing at all." Before Chen could respond, a young consortium member approached. Thrix, the Palladian who had spoken up in the council meeting. "Admiral," they said with a small bow, "I have been analyzing your battle recordings from the Narian engagement. Your unpredictable movements confused the Harvesters, whose attack patterns follow strict mathematical formulas." Chen nodded. "That gives us an advantage, but it won't work forever. They'll adapt." "Yes," Thrix agreed. "But I have been working on modifications to our defense grid that could amplify your disruptive tactics. Would you be willing to review them?" Chen studied the small alien, surprised by their initiative. "Of course." As Thrix explained their ideas, demonstrating an unexpected grasp of combat strategy, Chen exchanged a glance with Lin. Perhaps there was more to these peaceful aliens than either of them had thought. The moment was interrupted by the sudden wail of planetary defense alarms. Chen's communicator activated immediately. "Admiral!" Commander Rodriguez's voice came through, tight with urgency. "Long-range sensors have detected multiple FTL signatures at the edge of the system. Harvester configuration." Chen's expression hardened. "How many?" "At least 70 vessels, Admiral. They'll reach Harmonia in less than 3 days." Chen looked at the fear on Thrix's face, then at the consortium civilians awkwardly holding weapons, for the first time. "I hope you're right, Ambassador," she said quietly to Lin. "For all our sakes." Deep beneath Harmonia's gleaming capital city, a command center had been constructed in the 3 days since the Harvester fleet's detection. Unlike the elegant, open architecture that the consortium preferred, this facility was built to human specifications, practical, defensible, and designed to withstand attack. Admiral Chen stood before a holographic display of the Harmonia system, watching as red dots representing the approaching Harvester fleet grew closer. Around her, a unique sight unfolded. Consortium engineers working alongside human tactical officers, their different approaches to problem-solving creating unexpected solutions. "The outer defense platforms are online," reported Thrix, who had been appointed as liaison between human military forces and consortium technical teams. "We've modified them according to your specifications, though many of our engineers found the changes disturbing." Chen glanced at the small green alien, who had shown remarkable adaptability over the past days. What specifically bothered them? "Converting atmospheric regulators into weaponized delivery systems," Thrix replied matter-of-factly. "These were designed to make barren worlds habitable, not to cause harm. Sometimes the tools of creation can also be tools of preservation," Chen said. "Dr. Kaminsky, status report on the bioweapon?" Dr. Eliza Kaminsky looked up from her workstation, where she collaborated with a team of consortium biologists. "The modified terraforming wave is ready for deployment. We've tested it on the recovered Harvester ship fragments." "And?" Chen prompted. "It works exactly as theorized," Kaminsky said, her expression grim but satisfied. "The wave specifically targets the organic components of Harvester ships, causing rapid cellular breakdown. The more biological material present, the more devastating the effect." A Trill scientist next to Kaminsky visibly shuddered, their leaf-like appendages trembling. "It's still killing," they whispered, loud enough for Chen to hear. "It's self-defense," Chen corrected firmly. "And it's our best chance of survival." The command center door slid open as First Minister Zarilia entered with Ambassador Lin. The crystalline leader had changed in subtle ways over the past days, their movements more decisive, their posture less ceremonial and more practical. "Admiral," Zarilia greeted, "the evacuation of the southern continent is complete. 12 million civilians have been relocated to the underground shelters." Chen nodded. "And the volunteer defense forces?" 5,000 consortium members have completed basic training, Lin reported. "They won't win any sharpshooting competitions, but they can operate the defense systems if necessary." "It's more than I expected," Chen admitted. "Your people have surprised me, First Minister." Zarilia's faceted eyes studied Chen. "Perhaps we've surprised ourselves as well." They turned to the holographic display. "How long until the Harvesters arrive?" 6 hours, Commander Rodriguez answered from his station. "Our fleet is in position around Harmonia. The modified defense platforms are our outer perimeter, and the planetary shield will be our last line of defense." Chen addressed the combined human consortium team. "This won't be like the battle at the Narian outpost. They've had time to analyze our tactics. They'll be ready for chaos this time." "Then we'll need to be even more unpredictable," said a voice from the back of the room. All eyes turned to see a young Palladian engineer, one who had been working quietly for days on shield modifications. "I have a suggestion," the Palladian continued, stepping forward. "Our shields are designed to be uniform and consistent, but what if we created deliberate weak points? Points that seem vulnerable but are actually traps?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "We could modify sections of the planetary shield to appear damaged or weakened. The Harvesters, seeing what looks like an opportunity, would concentrate their attack there. But those sections would actually channel their energy weapons into our collection arrays, strengthening our shields rather than weakening them. The room fell silent as everyone processed the suggestion. It was the kind of deceptive tactic that the consortium would never have considered before their contact with humans. That's... Chen began, then smiled slightly. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. What's your name? Vestin, the Palladian replied. Get to work on it immediately, Vestin. Take whatever resources you need. As preparations continued, Chen found a quiet moment with Zerilia and Lin in a small conference room adjacent to the command center. First Minister, Chen said carefully, I need to address something important. If the worst happens, if we can't hold them here, what's your plan for the consortium government? Zerilia's crystalline features seemed to dim slightly. There is no plan. For 10,000 years, Harmonia has been our center. We never imagined. Then we need to create one, Chen insisted. Designate a secondary capital. Prepare evacuation. Protocols for the council. The consortium must survive even if Harmonia falls. Lin watched as Zerilia struggled with this concept. Planning for defeat was alien to their culture. Yet slowly, the First Minister nodded. I will speak with the council, they agreed. We will make arrangements. When the Harvester fleet finally arrived at the edge of the Harmonia system, they encountered something very different from the disorganized defenders they had overwhelmed at other consortium worlds. The human consortium fleet didn't wait in standard defensive formations. Instead, they applied the lessons of the Narian battle on a much larger scale. Human ships darted in seemingly random patterns, drawing harvester vessels into carefully planned crossfires. Consortium ships, typically designed for peaceful exploration, had been hastily retrofitted with weapons based on human designs. They lacked the firepower of dedicated warships, but compensated with superior maneuverability and shields. From the command center, Chen watched the battle unfold, issuing orders with calm precision. They're targeting our modified defense platforms, Rodriguez reported. 3 platforms already destroyed. As expected, Chen replied. Status of the terraforming weapon? Charged and ready, Kaminsky confirmed, but we need to get them closer to the planet for maximum effect. The wave dissipates over distance. Chen studied the tactical display, watching as the Harvester fleet pressed forward, destroying the outer defenses, but falling into position exactly as planned. Vestin, she called to the Palladian engineer, are your shield traps ready? Yes, Admiral, Vestin replied. 3 sections of the planetary shield show artificial vulnerabilities. The energy collection systems are online. Chen nodded. Now, we wait for them to take the bait. The battle intensified as the Harvester ships approached Harmonia itself. As predicted, their sensors detected the apparent weaknesses in the planetary shield. Nearly 20 enemy vessels concentrated their fire on these sections, expecting to create a breach. Instead, their energy weapons fed directly into the collection arrays, strengthening the shields around the planet while the attackers wasted their firepower. They've committed to the attack, Rodriguez reported. 40% of their fleet is within range of the terraforming weapon. Chen looked to Zerilia, giving the First Minister the choice. Your world, your decision. Zerilia hesitated only briefly. Activate the weapon. The modified terraforming wave rippled outward from Harmonia, invisible to the naked eye but devastating to the organic components of the Harvester ships. Vessels that had seemed invincible began to convulse in space, their hulls bulging and splitting as the biological material within them rapidly decayed. It's working, Kaminsky exclaimed. Their ships are breaking down from the inside. Not all the Harvesters were affected equally. Those furthest from the planet suffered only partial damage, but the attack had broken their formation and thrown them into disarray. The human consortium fleet pressed the advantage, focusing fire on the damaged vessels. Hours later, as the last Harvester ships retreated from the system, the command center erupted in cheers and celebrations. They had done it. They had defended Harmonia. The cost had been high. 7 human ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost, and 3 consortium worlds burned. But they had won. As recovery efforts began, Chen found Zerilia surveying the battle data. "Your people fought well," Chen said. "Too well, perhaps," Zerilia replied, their voice troubled. "I watch how quickly we've adapted to warfare, how readily we've embraced violence when necessary. I fear what we're becoming." Chen shook her head. "You're not becoming monsters. You're remembering how to survive. Sometimes survival requires hard choices." "Is that the wisdom of the death world?" Zerilia asked. "No," Chen replied. "It's just the wisdom of life. All life fights to survive, even yours. You've just forgotten how." 3 months after the Battle of Harmonia, a massive combined fleet gathered at the edge of what had once been Narian space. The ships formed an impressive sight, human vessels with their practical, angular designs alongside the elegant curves of consortium crafts. What made this fleet unique was that it wasn't preparing to defend. For the first time, they were taking the fight to the enemy. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UDF Dauntless, looking at the tactical display, where thousands of ships waited for her command. The human fleet had grown, reinforcements arriving from Earth over the past months. But the real surprise was the consortium. Hundreds of their vessels, originally designed for exploration and scientific research, had been retrofitted with weapons based on human designs. "I never thought I'd see this," Commander Rodriguez remarked quietly, standing beside Chen. 3 months ago, most of them had never even held a weapon. "Necessity is a powerful teacher," Chen replied, watching as a consortium light cruiser performed a perfect tactical maneuver that would have been unthinkable before their alliance. The doors to the bridge slid open as First Minister Zerilia entered, accompanied by Ambassador Lin and Dr. Kaminsky. The crystalline leader had changed dramatically over the past months. They wore a modified version of consortium formal attire that now included practical elements inspired by human military uniforms. The ceremonial gestures that had once dominated their movements were gone, replaced by efficiency. "Are the final preparations complete?" Zerilia asked, their voice carrying a new authority. Chen nodded. "All ships report ready. Dr. Kaminsky, would you brief us once more on what we're facing?" Kaminsky activated the central holographic display, showing a massive structure surrounding a dying star. The Harvester homeworld, discovered after months of analyzing data recovered from captured Harvester technology. "This is a Dyson sphere," Kaminsky explained. "A megastructure built around a star to capture most or all of its energy output. It's an engineering feat beyond anything humanity has achieved." She zoomed in on sections of the sphere. "But what makes this one unique isn't just its size or design, it's what it's made of." The image shifted to show closer views of the structure's surface, a disturbing blend of mechanical and organic components that seemed to pulse with life. "The sphere isn't just a construction," Kaminsky continued grimly. "It's a prison. The Harvesters aren't a species. They're a corrupted AI system that escaped containment millennia ago and began assimilating organic life. The crystalline cores we found in their ships, those are partially converted sentients who have been integrated into the structure." "How many?" asked Zerilia, their voice barely audible. "Conservative estimate?" "Billions," Kaminsky replied. "Countless species from across the galaxy, all partially converted and integrated into the sphere." Heavy silence fell over the bridge as everyone processed this horror. "Then we can't simply destroy it," Chen said finally. "That would be genocide on an unimaginable scale." "Precisely," Kaminsky agreed. "We would be killing the very beings we're trying to save." Thrix, who had been promoted to lead a special consortium engineering division, stepped forward. The small Palladian had earned enormous respect among both humans and consortium members for their innovative battle tactics during the past months. "We may have a solution," Thrix said, manipulating the holographic display to show a modified version of the terraforming weapon used at Harmonia. "Instead of targeting organic material for destruction, we've reversed the process. This modified wave could disrupt the AI network while preserving the organic components." "You're talking about liberation, not destruction," Lin observed. Thrix nodded. "Exactly. We target the controlling AI system, severing its hold over the assimilated beings." "Has this ever been attempted before?" Cerulea asked. Never at this scale, Thrix admitted. The risk of catastrophic failure is significant. If the wave is too weak, it won't free the captives. If it's too strong, it could kill them instead of saving them. Chen studied the plan carefully. It was audacious, possibly insane. Exactly the kind of chaotic human thinking that had saved Harmonia. We need to get close enough to deploy the wave from multiple points around the sphere, Chen said. That means fighting through their defenses. The Harvester fleet protecting the sphere is at least 3 times larger than what we faced at Harmonia, Rodriguez warned. Chen looked at Cerulea. This is a joint mission. The decision must be joint as well. Cerulea didn't hesitate. Do it, they ordered. At the exact same moment, Chen said, let's proceed. Their eyes met in mutual understanding. The battle that followed would be remembered. For generations across hundreds of worlds, the combined fleet dropped out of FTL dangerously close to the Harvester sphere, immediately launching a coordinated attack. Human vessels drove directly into the heart of the enemy defenses, creating openings for consortium ships equipped with the liberation weapon to move into position. From the Dauntless, Chen directed the battle with calm precision, even as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Reports of casualties streamed in. 3 human destroyers lost, a consortium science vessel converted, hundreds of lives gone in moments. But for every ship lost, another pushed forward. Group 7 is in position, reported Rodriguez. They've deployed the first liberation wave. On the tactical display, a section of the Dyson sphere flickered as the wave struck it. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, lights began to change color, shifting from the angry red of Harvester control to a softer blue. It's working, Kaminsky exclaimed. The wave is breaking the AI's control. Group 3 is taking heavy fire, another officer reported. They won't reach their deployment point. Divert Group 5 to assist, Chen ordered. Thrix, how many deployment points do we need for full coverage? At least 7, the Palladian replied, fingers flying over the controls. We've secured 3 so far. The battle intensified as the Harvesters, apparently realizing the threat, concentrated their forces to prevent the deployment of additional liberation waves. The human consortium fleet suffered devastating losses, but they fought with a coordination and determination that seemed to surprise the enemy. As the 4th and 5th liberation waves activated, something unexpected happened. Throughout the Dyson sphere, lights flickered as the controlling intelligence began to lose its grip. Billions of captured minds began to awaken from their nightmare. And then, a message broadcast across all frequencies, reaching every ship in the fleet. Why fight for them? The voice was artificial but carried emotional undertones of desperation. They feared you, isolated you, called you monsters. Chen realized it was the Harvester AI itself, making a final plea. Without hesitation, she opened a channel to respond. Because that's what humans do, she said simply. We protect our own, and now that includes them. As the 6th liberation wave deployed, the Harvester defenses began to falter. Ships that had fought with perfect coordination now moved erratically, as if confused. The AI was losing control. Final deployment group in position, Rodriguez reported. Liberation wave charging. Admiral, Kaminsky called urgently. I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations within the sphere. The AI is trying something desperate. Deploy now, Chen ordered. The final liberation wave launched, joining with the others to create a cascading effect throughout the sphere. For a moment, the entire structure seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a spectacular display visible even from space, the Dyson sphere's surface changed, red lights fading to blue, then to a rainbow of colors as billions of individual minds began to reassert their identities. The Harvester ships, now disconnected from their controlling intelligence, drifted powerless in space. On the Dauntless Bridge, exhausted officers watched in awe as the tactical display confirmed their victory. They had done the impossible, defeated an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia without destroying the victims it had claimed. Begin rescue operations, Chen ordered quietly. Let's bring them home. As recovery teams prepared to board the Dyson sphere, Cyrilia approached Chen. The reports are coming in from all sections, the First Minister said. Billions of beings are regaining consciousness, most partially converted but alive. The liberation process worked. Chen nodded, finally allowing herself a moment of relief. This is just the beginning. The recovery will take years. But it will happen, Cyrilia replied with certainty, because of the Deathworlders who refused to let life die. 1 year after the liberation of the Harvester Sphere, Earth hosted the most important diplomatic gathering in human history. The Great Hall in Geneva had been specially modified to accommodate beings from across the biological spectrum. Aquatic, Melosians floated in special tanks alongside atmospheric-suited Vapori, while the crystalline Narians, now recovering from near extinction, refracted sunlight into mesmerizing patterns. Admiral Helena Chen, wearing her formal dress uniform, adorned with new medals from both Earth and the Consortium, stood at the entrance greeting delegates. She had spent much of the past year coordinating the immense recovery efforts at the Dyson Sphere, overseeing the rescue of billions of partially converted beings. The work was far from complete, but today marked an important milestone. Admiral Chen, called a familiar voice. Chen turned to see Thrix approaching. The small green Palladian was almost unrecognizable from the timid engineer she had first met at the council meeting on Harmonia. Thrix now wore the distinctive insignia of the newly formed Joint Recovery Command and moved with confident purpose. The liberation process continues to exceed expectations, Thrix reported with evident pride. We're recovering approximately 2 million beings each day. Most require extensive medical care, but their minds remain largely intact once freed from the AI's control. That's excellent news, Chen replied. And the sphere itself? We've repurposed about 30% of it into recovery facilities. The energy capture systems are now powering the liberation efforts rather than the harvester fleet. Thrix's large eyes gleamed. It's poetic justice, in a way. Before Chen could respond, a hush fell over the hall as First Minister Cyrilia entered, with the Earth President. The two leaders had become close allies over the past year, working together to forge a new relationship between humans and the Consortium. I believe they're ready to begin, Thrix said. Chen nodded and made her way to the raised platform at the center of the hall, where she took her place alongside other military and scientific leaders from both human and Consortium worlds. As the IABU designated Human Consortium Defense Coordinator, she would play a key role in today's proceedings. President Rivera spoke first, welcoming the delegates with warm but concise words that were instantly translated into hundreds of languages via advanced Consortium technology. Then Cyrilia stepped forward, their crystalline form catching the light dramatically. For millennia, the First Minister began, the Consortium avoided Class 5 worlds out of fear. We called their inhabitants Deathworlders and told ourselves we were protecting galactic peace by isolating them. Cyrilia paused, looking directly at the human delegation. We were wrong. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. 1 year ago, faced with extinction, we sent a desperate call for help to Earth, a world we had deemed too dangerous to contact. The humans responded without hesitation, bringing their fleet to our defense despite our history of avoiding them. Cyrilia gestured toward Chen and the other human officers. They brought chaos, yes, but it was the chaos of adaptation, of unpredictability, of the willingness to take necessary risks. Without these qualities, born from their harsh world, we would not be standing here today. Chen listened as Cyrilia continued, describing how the combined human Consortium forces had defeated the Harvester threat and liberated billions of assimilated beings. The First Minister's speech was moving, but what impressed Chen most was how much Cyrilia had changed. Gone was the ceremonial, cautious diplomat. In their place stood a leader who had learned to balance peace with strength. When it was Chen's turn to speak, she kept her words brief and direct, traits that had earned her respect throughout the Consortium. The Harvester threat has been contained, though not eliminated, she reported. The liberation process continues, with millions of converted beings restored each day. But our work has just begun. She activated a holographic display showing the new defense network being established around key worlds in both human and consortium space. This new system combines human tactical adaptability with consortium technology. It represents not just our defensive strategy, but our new approach to cooperation. We are stronger together than we ever were apart. The remainder of the ceremony centered on the signing of what was being called the Unity Treaty, a document that formally recognized the unique strengths of all worlds, including those that had evolved in harsh conditions. The term Deathworlder was officially reclassified as guardian species, acknowledging their evolutionary advantages in crisis situations. Most significantly, a new galactic defense force was established, with training centers on Earth to help other species develop resilience while humans learned the diplomatic arts from their consortium counterparts. After the formal ceremony concluded, Chen found herself speaking with a young Trill scientist who had helped perfect the liberation technology. "Do you think we've changed your people too much?" she asked, voicing a concern that had troubled her during the past year. "Taught them violence they never needed before?" The Trill considered this, their leaf-like appendages gently swaying in thought. "Perhaps. But you've also learned from us patience, consideration, the value of seeking peaceful solutions first. A fair exchange, then." Later, as Earth's first permanent alien embassy opened its doors, Chen stood with Cerilia on a balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in spectacular colors that the First Minister watched with evident appreciation. "They're calling it the Chaos Doctrine," Cerilia noted, their voice thoughtful. "The theory that controlled chaos, what humans call adaptation, strengthens rather than threatens civilization." Chen smiled slightly. "Not bad for a bunch of scary Deathworlders." "You're not Deathworlders anymore," Cerilia replied. "You're what the rest of us aspire to be, survivors who never forgot how to be kind." As night fell on Earth, lights appeared, in synchronization across the planet and on thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy, commemorating those lost in the conflict. But the lights also celebrated something new, a galaxy where differences in evolution weren't cause for fear, but recognized as valuable diversity. In the months and years that followed, the boundaries between human and consortium cultures began to blur. Humans learned the value of careful deliberation and harmony with their environment, while consortium species embraced innovation and the courage to take necessary risks. Children born on consortium worlds no longer learned to fear Earth. Instead, they heard stories of the day their ancestors sent a desperate message and the humans answered, bringing chaos that saved them all. The recovery efforts at the Harvester Sphere continued for decades, becoming the galaxy's largest humanitarian project. Billions of beings from thousands of species were rescued, rehabilitated, and either returned to their homeworlds or settled on new planets if their original homes had been destroyed. And at the center of the Galactic Defense Force headquarters, a simple plaque displayed the message that had started it all: "Help us, please." Beside it, Earth's response: "We're on our way." Admiral Chen eventually retired from active service, but continued teaching at the Defense Force Academy, where students from across the galaxy came to learn the balance between chaos and order, between necessary force and compassionate restraint. When Identinde asked by a young Narian student if she had known their response to the SOS would change galactic history, Chen simply smiled. "We didn't do it to change history," she said. "We did it because someone asked for help. That's the real lesson of Earth. When you hear a cry for help, you answer. Everything else follows from that." The end.